Hello, everybody. It's Adam here. I can't see the guy. Welcome to the Movie Vault, where I'm going back to reviewing movies and reviewing and carrying on with the Hellraiser franchise. Okay. Moments ago, just got done watching Hellraiser Inferno, which is the fifth installment into the franchise. Got it right here on this multi-feature Hellraiser series on Blu-ray. It contains Hellraiser Bloodline, Hellraiser Inferno, which I'm going to be reviewing now, Hellseeker and Hellworld. But, nah, it's no big deal. I'm not going to miss out Deader either, but dreading the time I do watch that movie and going to do a review on it. Right off the bat, everybody, I'm going to say this right now, that the first three Hellraiser movies are the best. One's a classic, two, great sequel. Three I had a lot of fun with. Number four, I'm like, yeah, you know. It's an interesting concept about Pinhead being in space, you know, the whole thing with the bloodline. And still, it's kind of goofy to see Pinhead in outer space, but there was a few things that worked for me. Many, a lot of things that didn't work for me, but it ain't bad. But it was the last one that went to cinema in theatres. Whereas this movie, Hellraiser Inferno, which came out in the year 2000, went straight to DVD along with all the others. I think that gives you a good excuse as to why these movies aren't that good, you know. Because these next movies, Hellraiser Inferno, Hellseeker, Deader, and Hellworld, they're the worst ones in the bunch. But in a funny kind of way, I'd have to say Inferno, the fifth movie, is kind of like the best one out of the worst bunch, if that makes sense. Because I just got done watching it moments ago, and I was like, damn, I've not seen this in a long time. I think I maybe saw it once or twice when I first bought it on this multi-feature Blu-ray. And I think to myself, oh yeah, I remember this, I remember that, I remember that. One thing I did not remember about this movie is that Pinhead does jack shit in this movie. And he only appears for like 5 up to 10 minutes at the last minute end of this movie. Yeah, there's a scene where the detective opens up the door, Pinhead's there, but then that cuts to a dream, and then you don't see Pinhead again until the very last end of the movie. I mean, a lot of people say, yeah, well, what about Hellraiser 1 and 2? He didn't really show up in those movies. Well, that's kind of true, but at least when you saw Pinhead, he had things to do. He had dialogue. He had, like, things to do. Well, I'd say Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. That was the Hellraiser movie where he had a lot more to do. He had a lot more to say. Bloodline, he gets his screen moments, but in this movie, hardly anything. I mean, from what I understand, Doug Bradley, where I'll give granted, it was nice to see Doug Bradley come back for what it was worth for the 10 minutes that he was in this movie. He said that this wasn't meant to be a Hellraiser movie. He says there were scripts going on here and there for movies, and at the last minute, this movie was made into a Hellraiser movie. Let's call it, I don't know, not Inferno, but Hellraiser Inferno. Let's make it the fifth installment and throw Pinhead in it in the last 10 minutes and call it a Hellraiser movie. According to Pinhead, that's exactly what happened. I mean, Doug Bradley. This movie was made into a Hellraiser movie at the last minute. Okay. Now, I will say one thing. The acting in this movie isn't bad. I'm just looking up about our lead role, Craig Sheffer, who plays Detective Joseph Throne. Craig Sheffer, I haven't got a problem with him. I thought he did a good job expressing signs of emotion, sadness, and suffering. Like at the end where he's being ripped apart by the chains. And the scenes in this movie where he's showing signs of anger, where the demons are tormenting his brain, and he's showing signs of suffering. I thought he did a fine job. But he's a leading role, and yes, before we go any further, he's no Ashley Lawrence. aka Kirsty Cotton. He's known as Joey Summerskill. But basically, Craig Sheffer plays this detective who's a bit of a dick. He cheats on his wife by fucking a hooker. Okay. There's even a scene where he's basically trying to express to the audience that he's not a nice person. Because, like I say, he cheats on his wife. He's got a wife and a child, and he cheats on them, betrays them. We later learn that he's getting involved with drugs. And there's a crime scene where he recovers the puzzle box for a guy that he knew at school who he used to bully. So he's a bully, he's a cheater, he's a druggie. He's not a nice dude. Okay, and we get introduced to this other detective who kind of likes to help him out with his partner and all this kind of thing. But the scene where he fucks the hooker, after when he fucks the hooker, he goes into the bathroom, and from then on, loads of confusing things happen. You know, he starts seeing demons, the lights start to dim. And one by one, throughout the whole movie, people start dying. So 1 minute it's showing scenes of reality, and the next minute it's showing scenes of darkness. Who can ever forget the scene where the detective is going down the stairway and he gets introduced to the female Cenobites, like these two female Cenobites. Fucking ugly as fuck. And hey, kudos to the effects and kudos to the design of the Cenobites in this movie. But we see Cenobite, these two female Cenobites and this Cenobite with no legs. Again, doesn't hold a candle to the original Cenobites from Hellraiser 1 and 2. And it doesn't hold a candle to the Cenobites, for that matter, in Hellraiser 3. But we get these two female Cenobites who I guess kind of like sadistic sexual, because there's a scene, you know, where they're caressing and rubbing his body and it's going into his skin and they're rubbing the blood all over his body and licking him. Okay. He manages to go down the stairway, open the door, there's Pinhead, and then kaboom, it cuts to another scene. And he continues his duties as a detective, and at each crime scene there's left behind these fingers of a child. And there's also the introduction of the engineer, which shows his bad side, spoilers, towards the end of the movie, which shows his bad side, and the child his good side. Now, many of you are saying so far, what the fuck kind of movie is this? And and I have to say, it is a fucked up movie. It is a fucked up movie, and like I say, it's out the bad series bunch of the Hellraiser series, but it's the best one out the bad bunch, if I get that what I mean. I could tolerate it up to the point where I'd say it's okay. But then again, you look at the cover, you see Pinhead, you expect to see more of Pinhead. But honestly, you don't. The leading role just takes up, same as the movie. I mean, we even later learn that throughout the whole film that he neglected his parents when he was a child. Because this is a mental institution scene, you know, where loads of demon shit's happening. The corridor's getting longer, he's there with a shotgun, he's blowing all these different demons up. Who can the fuck can forget that creepy scene of that old man in the wheelchair, laughing like a child and then disappearing down the corridor? That scene always stuck with me. In fact, that's one thing I always remember from the house film. I was like, what Hellraiser movie was that, you know, where that creepy old man's going down the corridor in the wheelchair, being ripped apart by chains? It was this one, Hellraiser Inferno. So, it was a creepy scene. In fact, it was the only creepy scene in the whole movie. But it happened in this movie, Hellraiser Inferno. Okay. And basically, when we get to the end sequence, we later learn that the detective has created a hell for himself. The engineer showing off his bad side, the little boy showing off his good side, and Pinhead appears and basically rips him apart with the chains. Was it a gruesome death? I'd say to some extent. But again, it was nothing like the ripping apart scene that Frank Cotton took from Hellraiser 1. This was like more of a downgrade. I mean, it shows cheeks and his lips being pulled by the fucking chain and the hooks. But it was like a downgrade from all the other kills. So this movie was like a step downgrade. I think that gives it another reason to call it a direct-to-DVD movie. You know, it was like a downgrade from all the other movies. But when I think about it, the detective, like I said, he did a fine job acting-wise. I don't have a problem with him. But he's created one hell for himself, and I'm thinking, did this guy really deserve all this shit? Yes, I know he neglected his parents. Yes, I know he cheated on his wife, and he gets involved with drugs and stuff like that. It makes him a dick, but does it make him evil? Because I generally believe people who get involved with drugs are people who have problems, mainly mental problems, but it doesn't make them evil people. It makes them troubled people, but it doesn't make them evil people. You know, and this hell has been created for him. Does he deserve the gruesome death at the end? I mean, with Frank Cotton from part one, you can understand, yeah, because her and Julia worked together to kill people in order to fucking make him come back as human again. You know what I mean? They killed people, so that makes them evil. Pinhead's evil. Hence why he deserves his comeuppance, like in Hellraiser 3, when he did a similar thing with Frank, you know, bringing in victims. You know, but with this detective, he seems to be a dick, but not evil. I mean, there's some scenes in this movie that does get you confused, you know, thinking, are we watching reality or are we watching, like, a past or a future sequence? Because it just goes out to show he did open the box. But the scenes are where people are dying around him, including the hooker, she gets ripped apart by chains. And there's, like I say, there's fingers of a child left at the crime scene of every kill. But Hellraiser Inferno, I won't watch it again. I think the amount of times I've seen this movie, I'd say this is probably like the fourth or fifth time I've seen it now in my whole entire life. Like I say, I just got done watching it moments ago so I could do this review. But again, I'm not looking forward to reviewing the rest of the Hellraiser movies because this is where they get up to the point where they don't feel like Hellraiser movies. I mean, this movie didn't feel like a Hellraiser movie, especially with like a Pinhead. All the rest of the movies, especially Hellseeker, I think Hellseeker, I've got a lot of hatred for that movie. And I will get into that when I review it. And I know that I'm going to be on a ranting rage when I review that movie. Because the Pinhead character was totally shat on in that movie. Of course, we've got Hellworld and Dead. Dead is the most boring one, but Hellworld is like... I don't know, I can't remember. I'm going to have to rewatch that movie. But so, Hellraiser Inferno, it's the fifth one, made in the year 2000. In fact, I'll say a few more things before I go about this movie. Released on October 3rd of 2000. It's on for 100 minutes. It was only given a $2 million budget. So, directed by Scott Derrickson. That rings a bell, Scott Derrickson. I'm just looking into what else he directed. Urban Legends: The Final Cut. No, he was the writer for that movie. But he did direct Deliver Us from Evil, The Black Phone 2, The George, and he was also a writer and producer to Sinister 2. But he did direct The Exorcism of Emily Rose, so that's pretty much something. Right, everyone, I'm going to wrap this up right now. So, overall, I'm just going to say Hellraiser Inferno. It's the one film in the franchise that I won't recommend. You know, if you've got used to seeing Hellraiser 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you expect to see some good scenes with Pinhead, with dialogue, and more scenes with Doug Bradley, and just basically scenes that That would define a Hellraiser movie. Then I wouldn't recommend Inferno. I've said time and time again, it's the start of the worst ones in the bunch, but it's the best one of the worst ones in the bunch. So it's the only one which you can get some sort of good kicks out of it. But like I said, the detective in this movie was a leading role, and he didn't hold a candle to Kirsty Cotton or anyone like that. But no problem with the acting. The acting was fine. But again, we could have seen some more Cenobites. We could have seen more of Pinhead. So it was kind of a letdown, Hellraiser Inferno. You know, I really wouldn't recommend it for a Hellraiser fanatic or any horror fanatic for that matter. It didn't have like the Hellraiser feel, if you get what I mean. It was just a horror movie that was going around and they called it Hellraiser and say, hey, let's put Pinhead in for the last 10 minutes. So there you have it, everyone. Please leave a comment below and if you've got any questions. Thanks. Peace out.